What's up, everyone? Welcome into DodgerHeads, presented by DodgerBlue.com, part of the Blue Wire Podcast Network. My name is Jeff Spiegel, joined today by Scott Geirman, talking about a little interesting nugget of news that dropped within the last week, and that is the 2024 season for the Dodgers may open in a very interesting way. A number of sources reporting that the Dodgers may be playing the Padres to open 2024, which is interesting in and of itself, considering they waited about a month and a half to play this year. But the more important piece of news is that reports are that this series might take place in South Korea. Scott, we've seen the Dodgers do something like this before. They opened in Australia a handful of years ago. What do you think about the idea of the Dodgers and Padres opening and it potentially being abroad?
Definitely would be a matchup that would draw a lot of eyes, right? Like it's, Padres, Dodgers. A lot of people say it's not a rivalry, but it's just two very talented teams matching up. So if there was to be a matchup played in South Korea, that would be one that would definitely be highly, very competitive and one that I think a lot of fans would like.
Yeah, and obviously the Padres currently have Ha-Sung Kim on the team, who is Korean. Dennis Lin, who is one of the beat writers for the Padres, points out that it could be months before this series in Seoul is finalized, and did say that Japan is an alternative, Scott. That's interesting because, as Lin points out, there's a certain famous baseball player who hails from Japan who may or may not be on the Dodgers or Padres next season. So I'm curious if this is like, hey, if Ohtani signs with one of these teams, apologies to the folks in Seoul. I would imagine the logistics have to be sorted out beforehand, but
Sure.
Ohtani on one of these teams, even if it's just in the vicinity of Japan, I think would make for a really fascinating decision. I'm curious, Scott, for you, just big picture, the idea of playing Major League Baseball games abroad. Obviously, there was a series that just took place in Mexico City. There's another series later, I believe, that will be played in London. Obviously, this will be much further away. So it would probably happen like a week or so before the regular season was scheduled to start so that both teams can come back and get into a regular routine before games resume. But what are your thoughts on just big picture playing baseball games in a place like South Korea?
Honestly, the MLB has really taken a very focused approach on growing the game,
Yeah.
putting global eyes on it. I, you know, as for me, I just can't help but think of like 2014 with Kershaw and that, how that affected him. That was right when you texted me about it. It was like, oh my goodness. But growing the game, it's a global game. This is not, the amount of international players that are playing in Major League Baseball now is unbelievable, and the talent is just out of this world. So I think that growing the game is important, and there should be more of these. And as long as the logistics are all in order and players have the ability to come back and get on track with their regular season schedule, playing, in the U.S. on the once they get that rolling, I think it should be a thing.
Yeah.
Fans might not like it, won't be used to it, but it's something that we should really enjoy because there's so much enthusiasm that comes with the international games. And with WBC, we saw that flair. I
Yeah.
think a lot more people should get used to it and they should love it because baseball should be celebrated everywhere.
Yeah, and I think the one thing to point out too is like baseball is a massive deal in Korea.
Yeah,
Many people probably remember
great
when
ball.
COVID happened, the first league to come back was the KBO, and just the energy and the excitement that takes place when those teams play is a blast. I've actually gotten to spend a bunch of time in South Korea. I've been 3 or 4 different times. It's one of my favorite places in the world. And I'll
Really?
vividly remember, yeah, it's amazing.
That's
The food is
great.
amazing. The people are amazing. I mean, it's elite, an elite place to go visit. But one of the things I remember is when I was walking around, I remember walking through, we were at this one place where a bunch of folks were living, and I remember walking past and seeing a TV, and there was Major League Baseball on. And the reason was because Shin-Soo Choo was playing. And so when Korean players in Major League Baseball have a game, it's like a big deal in South Korea. And let's not forget, by the way, the Dodgers connection to South Korea is probably the strongest of any team in Major League Baseball. Chan-ho Park was sort of one of the pioneers to come over. They had Hee-Seop Choi and then Hyunjin Ryu. I mean, when I was in South Korea, it was when Ryu was still on the Dodgers. Ryu, like, I cannot overstate how big of a deal Hyunjin Ryu is in South Korea. Like, he is one of the most famous people in the country. And the fact that he was on the Dodgers, those people love baseball, therefore they love the Dodgers. So I think this is going to be a massive deal if this game
Yeah.
actually happens in Seoul. I think there's going to be a ton of buzz and a ton of energy. Obviously, those guys I just mentioned, not currently playing for the Dodgers, but I just think the heritage that the Dodgers have with the people of Korea because of the guys that have come through, and just because of how multi-ethnic the city of Los Angeles is, and just sort of the different population bases that they've been able to tap into over the years. I think the Dodgers in particular, Scott, playing in Korea is like a really big deal. I think it'll be a home game for the Dodgers is basically a long way of what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, no, that'd be fantastic. You mentioned, Hyunjin Ryu, those are, really special times. I remember Chan Ho Park. I was a kid, but, I still remember having all that memorabilia around the house. So it's been around, and man, it's kind of been a pillar for Dodger baseball. And
Yeah.
it's just something that, Dodger fans have seen for quite a long time. And it'll be fun. I enjoy it. I'm for one that'll be in favor of it. I'm really excited. And I think that it's going to be expanded. I think there'll be a lot more international games.
Yeah, I believe Chan Ho Park was the very first Korean player to ever play in Major League Baseball. So big deal. He debuted for the Dodgers back in 1994. I believe, yes, played from the Dodgers from 94 to 2001, and then again in 2008. Didn't retire until 2010. So great career there for
Mhm.
Chan Ho Park. So let us know what you think in the comments below. I know these can be polarizing topics, playing baseball games abroad, but
Yeah.
again, I think this one uniquely will be really, really cool because of the KBO, because of the Dodgers connection to South Korea. But to Scott's point, the Dodgers have gone abroad before, and there have been problems, let's just say, that have stemmed from that. So hopefully not a repeat there. So stay tuned once this gets finalized in the coming weeks and months, but should be exciting. That's Scott. My name is Jeff. As always, check out DodgerBlue.com for all the latest Dodgers news. Check out Dodger Blue 1958 on social media. And of course, if you're a podcast person, please subscribe to the Dodger Heads podcast on Apple, Spotify, or Google. We go live on Sunday nights and then post that into our podcast feed every single week. Enjoy the rest of your day. And of course, as always, go Dodgers.